Ladies and germs, boils and ghouls, welcome one and all to the Scare Factor podcast. I'm Brian, and I'm joined this week by my fellow co-hosts Tyler and Nora of Team Zombillies in Indiana. Say hi, Tyler and Nora.
Hi,
Hello.
Tyler and Nora.
Thank you. We're also joined this week by Tiffany and Dan from Team Terror Techies in Washington State. Say hi, Tiffany and Dan.
Hi, Tiffany and Dan.
I don't think Tiffany and Dan are listening. Are they here?
Oh,
We are listening.
we're listening.
Asocial.
We're just listeners.
They're
They just wanted
really
to watch
focused.
us have that awkward silence in there. Yeah, I see how they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So this week we are talking about fears, phobias, and what are we and are we not seeing in haunts. But first, a merchandise plug because we gotta plug that merch. Did you know that we have a merchandise store on thescarefactor.com? That's right. If you go to www.thescarefactor.com and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll find a link for our Spreadshirt store. Did you ever want to put your baby in a Team Skelligore onesie? Well, now you can. I don't know why you'd want to, but you can. If you want to dress your teenager up in clothes that they never asked for, you could put them in Team Terror Techies hats, beanies, buttons, bags, whatever you like. Did you want to dress up like your favorite review teams? Now you can. Just go to www.thescarefactor.com to find our Spreadshirt store link. We're still working on the plug. It'll
We're
get
still
better.
working on it. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I kind of like it. So we are talking about fears and phobias and all that good stuff this week. And so I think first what we should do is we should define what is a fear and what is a phobia. And the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines a fear as an unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. And I think that's a pretty good articulation of what a fear is, right? And a phobia is defined as an exaggerated fear of, so sometimes thought of as an irrational fear of something. When you think about arachnophobia, it's an irrational fear of spiders. We'll get into that one specifically a little bit later. So that's our topic for this week. And to kick off the discussion, let's start with what is your most irrational fear? Do you have any classified phobias? And have you encountered any of these in haunts before? Tiffany, you go.
So about the closest thing that um you could indicate like or call a phobia to me is I cannot stand like stray feral type dogs. They kind of like freak me out. So like if they're not kind of friendly and approaching, if they obviously don't have an owner, dogs jumping up on fences and like attacking someone.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the podcast. We had some technical difficulties during the YouTube live stream, and that part has been edited out. So now we'll get back into where the conversation picked back up.
That's a pretty strange fear. I haven't heard of that one, being afraid of feral dogs and wild animals, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so actually Dan has a story of something that he always wanted to see in a haunt. There are like a couple haunts where they do like there is like kind of like a dog house or a dog patch and they kind of do play it up. It's not really something you see too often. Like a lot of the times you see werewolves or something like that if you're going into like feral animal territory. But I have seen them at haunted houses, but not really overutilized, or really utilized a lot. I don't really know how that's just one thing that definitely sets me off. So
It's cynophobia.
Gotcha.
I just had to look it up.
nice.
Cynophobia.
Cynophobia. Interesting.
We've seen a few out here that do use the like dog attacks, like you're saying, they'll have some in like the dog house, and they'll have some type of movement where they'll come out growling and barking and all that stuff at you. But yeah,
See, what I've asked for and wanted to see in a haunted house is a narrative where they're doing a dog pursuing you the entire time, and it's a scare forward trick I want to see somebody do of uh, rustling in grass or whatever crop you're in, uh, growling of the dog, things like that. That's just constantly behind you. So it would be a motion sensor to activate stuff that's behind you to keep you moving forward. And then right when you get to the exit, it would be animatronic prop dog that comes out barking and snarling the entire time.
I have seen an animatronic dog that is gigantic that I swore was a small horse, and I can tell you they are incredible.
I'm envisioning somebody trying like the rabbit they use at like a greyhound race. Have some kind of like string or pulley system, something that comes running up behind you when you're not thinking about it at a inhuman speed.
Yeah, I could see something like that happening. Dan, what's your most irrational fear? What would scare you the most?
Honestly, this is just a personal one. I refuse to touch my eyes. It's not an external fear. It's something about the sensation of touching my eyes and being sensitive about it. It's why I constantly wear glasses. I refuse to get contacts. It's things like that, which apparently that's also an actual phobia. I had to look that one up too. A metophobia. And
Emetophobia.
it's interesting because it's not. I don't think it's something someone could externalize to freak me out, but I do know that I am bothered by other people touching their eyes. So I guess that could get played up somehow.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that getting
Somebody
played out
getting
in
right in your face
some
and
way.
my eyes are itchy.
Yeah,
That would be
I mean, with
interesting.
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
really
yeah,
good
I mean, does
makeup
it bother
artists.
you? If it does it bother you for other people to like tell you they're gonna touch your eye?
Yeah, people don't go near
Okay.
my eyes. It's one of those things of
Okay.
like my eyes are off limits.
So is it just your eyes, you touching them, and other people touching your eyes specifically, or is it anybody touching their own eyes?
It's very specifically my eyes for me, but I still get slightly uncomfortable when I see other people touching their eyes because it's something that just bothers me. It's discomfort there, but I'm phobic about my own eyes.
So
No, I could see that. I could see it being a little unsettling. I don't like that either. I think it's gross when people like just poke at their eyes and stuff.
So the story that I have of like how we used to get out tree bark and stuff when we would climb trees, we would take a pocket knife and take out the splinters out of our eyes, like that. No go. You wouldn't take a splinter out of my eye.
Oh God, she's gonna talk about the grandpa with the knife in the eye thing. Oh God,
No.
just talking about it bothers me. I think I have a new fear, guys.
Yeah, I think I'm getting on
We'll
the
get
same
into
page
mine
here.
here in a minute or two, but yeah, now we know Nora's afraid of spiders. Nora, do you want to tell us about your fear of spiders?
Yeah, sure. So the reason I'm afraid of spiders is because when I was probably 4, I mean like young enough to remember, like very young, but I do specifically remember it. I was walking around my yard outside by myself, and I saw a big giant wolf spider, I'm assuming, and it had a ton of babies on its back. So as a child, I'm like, oh, let's squish it. So I did, and I was covered in 1,000 baby spiders within several seconds, and I have been terrified of them since. So, like in haunted houses, when I get into spider scenes, I just kind of get like, oh, ew, nasty. But if there's any noise, like hearing them like crawl around, I like start getting goosebumps. And if one jumps out at me, I'm more likely to actually run from them because I'm already kind of in fear. So, yeah, spiders is the thing for me. I mean, there's several others too, but spiders is definitely number one.
If any of the props ever get any like secondary movement, like they're made out of something a little bit softer, where as it's lunging out or moving, the body in some way, if the legs and stuff start jiggling, and if they're hairy, especially, yeah, it really bothers her.
Or if I'm in a spider room and the lights go out.
Ooh. Ooh, yeah, that
there's
one
a
would
haunt
be
we
a little
visit that-
unsettling.
So does the
Yes.
like fish line that they have sometimes, like when you walk through like the hallways and stuff, does that do anything
That
for you?
doesn't, not really. If there's spiders hanging from it, I'll try to avoid those intentionally. And then we were in a basically like a crypt haunt one night, and an actor realized I was afraid of spiders, so he took one out of a scene and gave it to Tyler to traumatize me with throughout the rest of the haunt.
Just like a little rubber spider, something I could carry around in my hand, and every once in a while I just reach up and set it on her shoulder, and she'd be like, "Freaking stop!"
Oh, that's great.
Quite entertaining.
Yeah, and we get these black ones in our sinks here at the house. I don't know why they come up through the drains, but they get stuck in the sinks.
Most of them are the jumping spiders, the fuzzy ones. That's what I call them, fuzzies.
Yeah, but I can't get in. I can't get near the sink. I can't brush my teeth. I can't do anything if that spider's in there because I don't want to wash it down the drain. Because I did that one night and thought it was safe and started brushing my teeth. And this quarter-sized spider come up jumping out at me and scared the shit out of me. I threw the toothbrush, took off running. Tyler's laughing. So I've tried to get them out of the sink. I really have. We have videos of me trying to do this and trying to overcome the fear, and I can't.
That's fun.
She'll be dancing around on her little tiptoes, have a plate and her napkin and like a spoon or something, trying to get it to go on the napkin because she wants to be nice to it and take it outside because it's a living creature. But nope, as soon as it like makes a move like it's actually going to get on the napkin like she wants it to do, nope, she throws it and she's across the room in about 2 seconds.
So, can I make a suggestion for you then?
Yes.
Get yourself a like a piece of cardboard, just a scrap piece of cardboard from a box or something, and get yourself a cup. And you're gonna try to lure the spider up onto the cardboard, and then trap it with the cup, and then you can take that whole thing outside. You don't have to touch your spider, nothing.
I don't know if I can get that close to it.
As soon as it gets on the cardboard, she'll bail.
Well, have Tyler do it then. So then you can feel better about having gotten rid of the spider, and you didn't have to touch it, and it's still alive.
Yeah, it's so bad that there was one in the house one time, probably 2 years ago. A big wolf spider got in, and Tyler was at work on third shift, and I tried to get it out of the house. I stomped, and every time I'd stomp, it'd get up on its legs real tall and come after me. It was like in defense mode. I couldn't sleep all night because that spider was in here.
So I have a story about wolf spiders. When I was a teenager, I was living in Southern Virginia with my dad and my stepmom, and where we were living was not necessarily the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, but close enough anyway. It's in the mountains. It's in the hills, right? And in that area, it is not uncommon, especially in the fall, to see wolf spiders getting into your house because they're trying to. They realize the cold weather's coming, and they want to basically set up a nest for the wintertime. And so my stepmom one day went to put on her shoes and felt something wiggling around in there. Took her shoe back off, tossed it, shook it out, and out comes this big fuzzy wolf spider. And so, of course, my father and I hear this screaming from across the house, and we come running. What's the matter? What's the matter? And she goes, "That big freaking spider come shaking out of my shoe," and we're dying of laughter, right? Because we're like, "Yeah, all right, settle down." Well, we couldn't find out where it came from. We thought, well, maybe just spider got in from outside, from like a screen room or something, and so we didn't think much of it until the next day when I said, "Oh, there's more spiders." And we found out where they were coming from. They had decided to make a nest inside of the wall. And there was a whole bunch of spiders in there. I'm talking hundreds of great big huge wolf spiders. Now, I've never really been one to be afraid of spiders. I mostly ignore them because, for the most part, spiders are bros. They take care of the flies and all the other stuff in your house.
Yeah.
And honestly, if there's a spider in your house, what you're not seeing is everything that he's taking care of, right? Spiders, for the most part, know that you are gigantic. They are no match for you.
Wow.
And they know that, right? So they know better than to try to attack you for the most part. You might get a spider bite occasionally.
I think that really depends on the species.
Yeah, the common house spider, right?
When I lived in Utah,
brown recluse. Well, yeah, brown recluse. Different story.
I've been bit by one of those.
Yeah. But what you're not seeing are all the bugs that they're eating that are in your house. So
I would rather have the bugs.
I tend to just leave spiders as they are. Maybe I'll relocate them if they're in a troublesome area or something, if they're in the way. But yeah, for the most part, I've never really been afraid of spiders that much, except for that one day. No way.
We know that our haunted house goers that listen and go to haunted houses are afraid of them too, because we did a survey several years back, and we got a lot of answers on what are you the most afraid of in a haunted house, and a lot of them said spiders. I think spiders was number one.
I'm gonna have to
when we did that survey.
find a picture from caving I did about a decade ago. It was early spring, so it wasn't quite warmed up yet. Coming out of the exit of the cave, there was a knot of spiders that had all condensed into one little crack to keep each other warm. Probably 1,000 of them in this crack that was just up the side of the cave.
Nice. So Tyler, what are you afraid of?
The one that I have encountered the most, I would say, is, I know we were talking about it before the show, and we said it's the fear of falling. And yeah, I don't like the idea of falling, but I'm less afraid of falling like as I'm walking on the ground, and more of like if I'm 100 feet in the air or 200 feet in the air.
Falling off a ladder or something.
Falling
yeah,
off
you're
of
doing
a
work on
catwalk
a
or
roof.
a ladder, yeah, or a tree, something like that. But I will give a little bit of credit to my former employer. I used to work at a big factory down here, and there were always multi-levels of things that I would always have to climb up, and all of the grading and catwalks and stuff was all see-through. So even if I was, a couple 100 feet in the air, there was nothing stopping me from looking down between my feet and, seeing the ground all the way down there. So, I mean, I always knew I was safe, and that helped out a lot, because I always had railing and that kind of thing. But still, just looking over and getting that feeling of vertigo, yeah, that's not something I look forward to doing, is falling from a great height.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't think most people are terribly comfortable with the idea of falling in the first place, But that does bring up an interesting theory that's been on around the internet before. The call of the void, right? If you say you're standing, on the edge of a cliff, and you just kind of have this urge to jump off or throw your phone or something, and
I do
obviously
that all
you
the time.
you never follow through with it, but it's so many people experience this call of the void, is what it's been called before, and it is fascinating to read more about. We won't get too far into that today, but if you're interested in that sort of thing, and trying to understand, what is it about people that makes them just have this urge out of nowhere, definitely go Google that.
I shall.
Yeah. So as for me, I think our audience knows at this point, I don't like mannequins. And by don't like, I mean I sometimes will refuse to go into a scene at a haunt that has mannequins in it. And I don't think I'd call mine a phobia specifically. Before the show, we were talking about this a little bit. And, we're raising the question of where does the line get drawn between fear and phobia? And I would classify it more as a fear. And I think the reason is because I can go to a department store, I can go shopping for clothes, I can go to places that have mannequins, and it doesn't bother me, right? I think for me, it's a very context-specific sort of thing, right? It's obviously in this well-lit store with a bunch of people walking around like nothing's going on. Like, that doesn't bother me, right? I can go up to the display where the mannequin's wearing the jeans, and I can pick out the jeans I like, whatever. That doesn't bug me too much. It's more so when the mannequins are set up in a way such to invoke this sense of uncertainty, the sense of creepiness and spookiness, I guess. This idea of you walk into a large room, and there's 100 mannequins all stood up, and there might be a live actor in there with them. And if it's barely lit, the lights flickering, and you walk through, and you got to weave in and out of those mannequins. No way. Just, it's not going to happen.
You don't like mingling with the mannequins, Brian?
I don't like mingling with the mannequins, and that's maybe I should have named the episode of the podcast "Mingling with Mannequins."
Does it matter how they're dressed at all?
Like you could just walk in, they could be naked. Like
okay.
As long as I think for me in a haunt specifically is if I think that there could be an actor hiding amongst them. That's kind of what gets under my skin a little bit because I don't know when that scare is going to come because that actor could be anywhere. When I walk through a scene, having worked in haunts before, when you walk through a scene, you immediately know there could be an actor there, and there. And you just know that based on how the set is designed and where the good spots are going to be and what are the darkest corners, right? But when you walk into an open room and it's just full of mannequins, well, there could be a live actor standing right in front of you. You'd never know it. They could all be live actors for all I know. So it's kind of that when is the jump scare going to happen is I think one of the biggest driving factors for me because I don't know. I've talked about a specific scene before at the haunt I used to work for, Frightmare Farms, where you walk in and the scene is, I don't know, I guess you call it like a bedroom sort of scene. And the costuming director or manager or whatever you want to call her name's Grace. She's the sweetest lady you'd ever meet in your life. But she's very short, and so there was a mannequin that's about the same height as her, and she does this bit where there's a mirror frame in the middle of the room, and you have to basically walk very close to where she's standing or where the mannequin is standing, and you don't know which one it's going to be until you're right in front of it, and so the way that the way this works is she's standing in front of this mirror frame and you walk by and one of them's going to move and you don't know which one it's going to be. And it's really creepy because they're both dressed up exactly the same. They're both the same height and you have to get very close to one of them.
It's always cool when they're able to disguise a mannequin to look very, very similar to what they know is the live actor that's going to be in there.
It helps when the mannequin has the same build as the actor and you can put them in the same costume and the same mask and all that, and it definitely helps a lot.
I almost wonder if your fear of mannequins is actually mannequins or if it's just that that trepidation, that unknowing.
I think that's probably more it. I think that's probably more along the lines of what's going on there. I'm definitely, if I were to walk into a warehouse, even without context, just walk into a warehouse that's full of mannequins, I think I would still be very on edge. Just because I guess I've always associated mannequins with this kind of uncanny valley sort of thing, right? The more human they look, the more it freaks me out. And it's very, very uncanny valley sort of thing, right?
Yeah. I think don't quote me on this because I haven't looked it up yet, but I will look it up now. I think the word is, maybe not. Okay. I looked up the definition of surreal because I was thinking that was, uncanny might be the right word. The one,
so uncanny valley,
very human looking like.
Well, so uncanny valley is the basic concept of, let's say, a robot that looks very, very human, almost real, but there's just something about it that you can't put your finger on, and it's really just unsettling and creepy, and you can't. It's so hard to articulate what exactly is off about it, but there just is something that is just, this isn't a real person.
Yeah, something's tipping you off that it's not real. Yeah, you're right. That uncanny valley, looking at a little blurb from Wikipedia, it's the region of negative emotional response towards robots, in this case, that seem, quote, almost, unquote, human. Movement amplifies the emotional response.
Yeah, this was commonly run into with photorealistic computer graphics. It got really weird for Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within when that movie came out because it was so far ahead of other CG movies at the time, and they made the voice actors, characters very similar to their actual appearance in the movie.
Yeah, it can get funny, especially in the early days of computer graphics and all that. At this point, I think we've desensitized ourselves just as a society, I think, to that. But it'd be interesting to see the reactions of people who maybe have never seen computer graphics. Take one of the tribes people, from somewhere in the jungle in South America, and if you were to show them computer graphics, modern computer graphics of a person, how would they react to that? Um, so in 1998, there was a survey done by the British Journal of Psychiatry of more than 8,000 participants, and they found that some of the most common phobias include acrophobia, which is a fear of heights, arachnophobia, which we just discussed, a fear of spiders, autophobia, which is a fear of being alone, which, I mean, who's not afraid of being alone, right? Claustrophobia, which is a fear of small spaces. I think a lot of people are pretty familiar with that one. Ophidiophobia, a fear of snakes, which I feel is probably more common than we would think, and not surprised that there's a name for it. And trypanophobia, a fear of injections, which just seems oh so apropos given the current political climate and things that are going on in the world today with everybody getting their vaccines. Which has everybody here gotten their full vaccine series?
We have been vaccinated. We should be.
Yeah.
It's been over 2 weeks ago. We should be good.
I got my second Pfizer shot last Thursday.
There you go. Yeah. How'd you guys feel? I know Tyler and Nora, you guys were feeling a little under the weather the day after.
We were out for about a half a day, had the whole hit by a truck feeling, and but surprisingly and luckily, thank goodness, as soon as we got caffeinated and kind of started moving around and doing some things, it just kind of went away, and knock on wood, we haven't had any symptoms since.
Yeah, that's been the consensus out of most people that have side effects. I felt like I was hungover for a day. I just kind of hung around the house drinking Gatorade for most of the day. I mean, it helped.
I felt like death, but
Yeah, I mean, it happens. So yeah, trypanophobia, that's a real one right now in the world. And on top of that, an estimated 12.5% of U.S. adults experience a specific phobia at some time in their lives, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. I think that's a really high number, to be honest with you. A specific phobia. I mean, I don't know. I guess when I start to think about it, it kind of makes sense, given how many phobias there really are out there.
I mean, there's a book of nothing but phobias for every random little thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the DSM-5 manual talks about different phobias and the different characteristics you need to display in order to, I guess, be officially diagnosed as having that phobia. So on that topic, what sorts of fears and phobias are we just not seeing in haunts, and how can haunts capitalize on these? I'm thinking, fire and water, this fear of drowning or this fear of burning alive or something. I can imagine it'd be very hard to do for safety reasons. But I mean, like trypanophobia, this fear of injections, I feel like more haunts could be capitalizing on that. Maybe not this year. I think it would be in poor taste this year, right? Because the idea is we want more people to get the vaccine and not fewer. But I think in the future, once this whole thing kind of goes over, that'd be pretty easy to capitalize on.
I would think so. That was something that we saw at Transworld. Somebody, right, Nora? That I can't remember what booth it was, but somebody had one of those retractable needles.
Yeah, we didn't get to see it, but we heard a lot about it. But it's kind of like the cheesy knife that they used to have where you could stab your friend and the knife would just inject into the handle. But apparently there's a pretty realistic needle that they were selling that does that now.
So there's even a whole subgenre of like haunts that's just like medical horror. There's actually quite a few of them, and I've worked in a few of them. So like Needles is a really common one. Drills. People hate the sensation or the idea of their teeth getting drilled. So just the sound of drills going off against metal is something that we
Ugh.
could really
Yeah, that's
play up.
ugh, yuck.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that. Ugh. No.
I feel like those people should not ever work in construction or automotive technician programs, sorts of fields. Drilling metal that happens all the time.
Right. It reminds me while we were at Transworld, they were doing the Vampire Circus, and I can't remember the name of the song he called it, but his instruments were a porcelain plate or a glass plate and a fork. And he was playing it in front of everybody, and everybody was like, "Oh no, you gotta stop!" And yeah, it was funny.
And I've never seen a haunt do that. But like, if you walked into a kitchen and an actor just stood there with a plate and just started doing that as like a distraction,
yeah, you always see him banging knives and hammers and pots and pans on the counter or other pots and pans. But yeah, you don't see him making that screeching sound. That's a interesting observation.
I did it with chalkboards, so.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably not being done because like the actor has to hear it all night and to save their own sanity.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to find somebody really immune to it to be able to tolerate.
I mean, give me some earplugs or something so I can't hear it, and I'll be a-okay.
I don't think I would be able to hold the plate and do it either, because it has a certain feeling to it as you do it.
Sends that vibration up into your arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like me, I can't stand to file my nails because of that, the way it feels. Ugh.
Speaking of these odd, screechy sorts of noises, there are, when I hear the sound of like, imagine taking your hand and kind of rubbing it over a balloon and that kind of squeaky, screechy noise you get, that rubber kind of, I guess, making that squealing noise under your skin, it puts me in physical pain. I can't explain it. But if any of the haunts I review are listening, you want to put me on my knees and make me cry, that's how you do it.
So a balloon twister?
Mannequins, like, I'm just going to nope right out of there. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have the chance. You want to take me by surprise, put me on, make me fall down and start crying because I'm in pain. That's how you do it. You put these screechy noises in my ears.
So a balloon twister would drive you up a wall, like a balloon artist type of thing?
Not really, because it's not. That's the sound of that is different enough that doesn't bother me. It's that prolonged kind of squeaky noise, right?
Maybe like a door hinge squeaking open.
Not even so much of that. And it's this really oddly specific noise. The only time I've ever really experienced it is taking a fully inflated balloon and taking a hand that's, slightly sweaty and just kind of, dragging your hand over it.
Oh, it's going to be almost higher pitched, I bet.
It's got to be super high pitched. Yeah, it's something about the frequency is getting to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
don't get any ideas.
One of my sticks that I used to do, because I could go ahead and do balloon animals and unicycle and do a lot of fun clown stuff. But like, I would find people that would have that type of phobia. Like, so people are scared of clowns straight up. But if they were owned or if they couldn't stand like balloon popping, like there's a whole population that just can't stand the randomness of balloons just popping, I would specifically like start making balloon animals horribly next to those people in line.
Give me a minute, I'll get it.
Yeah.
Just keep twisting and making all, yeah. I never thought about that, but we did have a clown make us an animal balloon or balloon animal. It's been probably 2-3 years ago. What was the name, Nora?
I don't know.
he had a name. The dog had a name. We gave him a name and a duct tape collar and wrote his. What was it?
I think he's in the car, but the haunt named him. I can't remember, but we had him. We had the haunt, one of the haunts, hold on to him while we went on a zombie paintball shoot because we couldn't take the dog with us. And when we come back out, they'd made him a collar and put a name on him. I can't remember though. It's in the car somewhere. He's only like 2 inches big now.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe that's why we see clowns every once in a while making balloon animals, is because they're looking for the people that sound just drives them nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you don't have a phobia of clowns, then maybe a clown can still instill fear another way.
Yeah. It's not even a fear for me. It's just it's physically just painful. Like, I'm not afraid of it. It just hurts.
Right.
I can't explain it. It hurts, and it's so oddly specific. It hurts in the front of my head. So like if you had a headache or something, but it was oddly focused right, like near your hairline on your forehead, just underneath the skin, and you can't get at it. You can't do anything to remedy it. It just, ugh.
I think a few others that we don't see very often are people are afraid of storms. Like, I'm one of those people. It's not like a giant fear of mine, but I am afraid of most storms. And we don't really see, I mean, we get lightning and thunder, but like, imagine a scene where you think a tornado is coming through or warnings that a storm is coming, and you just don't really see that often. And we do see, I hate to mention this one because this is one that I hate seeing in haunts, but it's, it can be utilized, and that's the getting shocked.
I think that one is more just an aversion to the physical pain, rather than the fear of getting shocked specifically.
Oh, I'm afraid of getting shocked specifically.
I feel like most people are averse to specifically getting shocked, but I, like I said, I think that one is more of an aversion to the pain that goes along with it, because everybody's gotten a zap from a 9-volt, or dragging your feet on the carpet and you touch a piece of metal or something. Especially where I live in the Northeast, in the wintertime when it gets very dry, and I wear a fleece jacket, to the office or something, and then when I take that off and then I go to touch something that's metal, and I got zapped. Mm-hmm. So that's that's.
It probably goes along really hand in hand, like with my fear too. It's like, it's not the being up high, and it's probably not even the falling. It's the hitting the ground that you don't really want to do, because once you're falling, you're kind of screwed.
Right. It's that abrupt stop at the end, right?
Yeah, that's the part. That's the part that sucks.
What was the show? Oh, Dead Like Me. Used to be a show on HBO years ago, and it was, without getting too much into the plot, it was about this girl. She died, and like now she's a Grim Reaper or something. It was a pretty good show, but like,
we watched a couple episodes of that.
Yeah, it was a great show. But so like one of the other, I guess, Grim Reaper dead people that like she, I guess, worked with, had committed suicide by jumping off a cliff. And there was a line that she had said, and it was something like, "It's not the fall that kills you, it's the abrupt stop at the end." And I thought I was like, yeah, I mean, that's not wrong, right?
Don't really have an argument for that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. It's not
the
wrong.
falling might actually be kind of fun, but it's short-lived when you realize, hey, that stop, that might be it. There might not be any more after that. Anything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think how they have to like play it up like haunted house style is I'm pretty sure all of you guys experience like the elevator scare. So like it rumbling, and then it's like, oh my god, free falling.
Oh yeah, elevator.
Yeah. But I think that's probably about the closest. Like, I've been in haunts where like the ground shifted, or you go ahead and you walk on grading, so you have the sense of feeling up high. Another one is the infinite mirrors, so you could make it look like you're right next to like a elevator shaft, or some type of like deep hole by using the infinite mirror kind of setup. But yeah,
I've seen a couple really good examples of those. One of them with the elevator specifically was at Nightmare on Edgewood, and they put TV screens in the ceiling and the floor. Both were going opposite directions. So as you had the feeling of the elevator moving around and you'd look up, you'd see, in this case, they were lowering you down, and, you'd look up and the shaft was going away from you, and you'd move down and you could see the ground and the shaft moving towards you. And then it would simulate the coffins, or not the coffins, what the heck am I talking about? The cables snapping and breaking, and then you go speeding towards the ground. That one was really cool. And then, what was the other? Oh, the endless floor. The best one I've seen was at Erebus, but that's been probably 8-9 years ago when we went there for MHC bus tour. And that one was executed real well because they had a narrow path, like the wall was really close to you, and it might have actually been leaning towards the endless pit, and so you were like forced to look over and lean. And I'm not sure exactly how they did it, but they sold the endless floor illusion real well, because you'd look down and like you didn't see reflections or dirty plexiglass or anything like that. It was crystal clear, and it looked like you went down. I mean, I was tipping my foot off to the side trying to feel the ground, and they probably had like a 6 or 8 inch drop because I never did touch the ground, and I was too scared to get too much weight over there. And I'm like, dang, it looks really far. I don't want, nope. And so that triggered the fear of falling. And
I did the same thing, only I let my foot barely touch it, and it felt like it was like over a foot, because I scared the shit out of myself too, trying to see how far it went.
There was an actual drop, but I don't know where the illusion started and real ended, but it was all there. It was very well done.
That's pretty cool. I've seen a few I guess endless void sorts of illusions at a hunt that shall not be named. They did one really cool scene where you were up on a catwalk that was probably, I don't know, 3 feet off the ground, if that, and they just filled the space underneath the catwalk with fog. And the way it was lit, you couldn't tell how far down it was, and so when the actor came towards you and then flopped forward, he disappeared into nothing.
Oh,
that was cool.
Right, and then you don't know.
Yeah, so he
the
probably just
goes.
he probably just fell forward off of the end of his platform, which was, I don't know, let's say 8 feet away or so. And so when he falls forward, he's just falling onto a soft mat or something on the ground that's a couple feet down. But he's disappearing into the nothingness. And then as he did that, these little demon guys jumped up out of the fog onto the catwalk with you. Coolest thing I've ever seen. Never seen anything like that anywhere else. But
yeah, and
we shall not name that hunt because the way they handled everything else really sucked.
Going back to water and falling, we visit a haunt every year called Haunted Angeles up in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a section where you're kind of like in a swamp area, and they have a bunch of water, like a mini waterfall, and you're surrounded by this water on the right side as you're walking on a rope bridge. And when you step into the middle of the rope bridge, an actor will always stop you and kind of like insinuate, like, hey, look at the water or whatnot. And right when they do that, that bridge falls at least a foot towards the water. Like it completely turns sideways, like it's going to drop you into the water. So we thought that's a really cool way to use both of those together.
And there's some kind of tarp over top of the bridge where it would collect water as it's level, and then as it tilts over, it dumps all that water off. And
we did a hunt last year that had a kind of suspension bridge over a pond. It went out to a point in the middle and then off to the side to continue on the trail. And the first part of the bridge was sturdy, but as you went along, it got a little more shaky. I did disturb other people because I started jumping on the bridge to see how sturdy it actually was.
Well, of course, you got to test the durability of the bridge, absolutely.
But it had a nice bounce to it, and I could see how people would find that it felt very unstable. And it was like 5 feet off the water, and you couldn't see how deep the water was. It was dark and only lit by torches, literal torches, like burning flame. Cool effect.
Nice. Yeah,
I could see getting away with that, a foot or two of water, and even if you did fall into it, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to get wet.
right. The next best one I think I've probably seen was at the cave, and that was because, well, they had a little bit of an advantage. They were in a freaking cave, so they actually had real bridge and real water that they were going over, but it was so black and dark in there because, it's underground that, yeah, you couldn't see anything under the bridge. It could have been 5 feet, it could have been 30 feet. You had no idea, but yeah, it was
And
pretty
the bridge
cool.
is on the water there, so you're like walking on top of the water, and then they make it really, really dense fog in there, and then it's just a green light. So you're walking into fog, and you can't, like, at points I couldn't see Tyler in front of me, and you just are surrounded by water, and you can hear it, and it's super cold, and it's really cool to, like, enter that haunted house.
They do take advantage of it because they've got actors in wetsuits that come up over the rail, and yeah.
They will grab a hold of you, too, and make you wet, so people that are afraid of water might not enjoy that.
Nice. So what sorts of fears and phobias are we seeing, I guess, more commonly in haunts that could maybe be capitalized on further?
I was going to say one that could be capitalized on less, but
Well, I'm thinking, arachnophobia, how could a haunt make that more intense, or claustrophobia? I'm sure
yeah.
we've all seen the claustrophobia tunnels and whatever. Like, yeah, if somebody's really, really afraid of, really, really has a bad phobia when it comes to claustrophobia, that sort of thing, that's going to freak them out. But, for most people, it's whatever. It's a tight squeeze. It's uncomfortable at best, but it's not that scary on its own, right? What sorts of things could haunts be really exploiting even more? I'm thinking like fear of snakes. I know of one haunt that that uses real reptiles in their haunt, real snakes and all that. And I, for one, am not comfortable around snakes. Not afraid of them. I just have a very healthy respect.
Don't like the danger noodles?
I do not prefer the nope ropes.
The nope ropes.
I tell you, they're rather nice.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. I'm fascinated by snakes. Really, I am. I subscribe to a YouTube channel about a guy in Florida. He owns a wildlife, I guess, park, if you will, and he's got a bunch of venomous snakes that he keeps. He can keep them.
Right.
I'll let him have those. I got no interest.
It's something Nora and I were talking about earlier. You was talking about arachnophobia, how it can be used better. And what we've seen a lot is like, yeah, they'll go through the work and create the room, but like if all it is static props and maybe some sounds, then that's sort of triggering the phobia, but it may not be the best at actually instilling fear, especially in those cases where people aren't arachnophobic.
Yeah.
So, like, whenever I'm following Nora through, yeah, I'm looking at her and getting giggles because I'm watching her get freaked out a little bit, but she's not really getting a fear reaction. And it's because there's nothing there to generate that kind of reaction because everything's just a static prop. It's just there to look at. And I think haunts kind of rely on just the way things look a little bit too much because they're ignoring everybody else in the group that doesn't get affected as much.
And I think with arachnophobia specifically, if you could find a way to put an actor in a costume that is now a gigantic spider, you're going to evoke a much bigger reaction even out of people who are not afraid of spiders to,
Nora?
To really be on edge.
The guy that had the spider costume?
Oh, they're out there. I've seen them. They're awesome.
The little guy at Asylum. They made a spider costume for him.
I try to forget these things.
Yeah, they are out there. I have seen some custom made ones. They are awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they custom made one. Yeah.
This guy was still upper half was still human, and then they made a lower half on him. He was I don't think he's actually a midget, but he's a very short guy. And so the whole bottom half of him was these spiders, and he'd come out around the corner, and these legs would be jiggling coming out around the corner.
Oh my god! I backed up against the wall. I was like, I'm going out this haunt in the reverse direction here because I am not walking past that fucking thing. Not doing it.
Like, we even knew who the guy was because we'd been going to this haunt for years and years, and we learned who the guy was. It did not matter. Nope. She was going. She's like, I really like your costume. Bye. Or don't like your costume. She was not having any part of it.
So there's this old.
So that's what I mean. Even knowing. Oh, what was he saying, Tiffany?
Oh, there's this like old school scare. Kind of in relating to, like arachnophobia and stuff like that, where you kind of like have a maggot infested room or a cockroach infested room, and what actually turns it into a scare is normally the actors eating like the cockroaches or the maggots, and they're just coming out of everywhere, or all of a sudden like a drawer opens, or if it's in a cupboard in a kitchen, I've seen it where there's just cockroaches that kind of like spill out. I've also seen them where they use like kind of like a graphic video effect.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Where it looks like they're literally crawling all over things. So
yeah,
I've seen them done like a lot of different ways, but I've even seen like rooms, kind of like what you're explaining, where you have the actor that's like dressed up as like this like queen spider, for lack of better terms, or king of all the spiders, or whatever you want. Like, yeah, I've definitely seen like that kind of like setup in different haunts before.
I just thought of a really good gag that would be great for getting people that are scared of spiders.
We got to hear it.
Oh, go on.
So you get a bunch of the fake spiders, the rubber ones that have a little more texture to them. You attach them to clear fishing line, but then you rig that up through the roof, and that's attached to an actuator that will just lift up and drop them down rapidly. And so as people walk into the room, that'll release the trigger and drop the spiders when they hit a motion sensor or a pressure plate. And so they'll just suddenly have all the spiders fall down on top of them, and then you have that with a kind of black cloth textured roof. So they blend in when you're in the actual space.
Release the spiders.
Yeah, it would.
Nora would have an aneurysm if a bunch of spiders dropped on her from the ceiling.
That might make me go to the floor. I don't know.
It's. This is why I need to not be thinking about these things, because I can think of some really bad traps like that.
If you're a haunter and listening to this podcast,
Tyler, shut up.
Get some ideas.
Take notes.
well, I'll tell you, I've got an
things.
idea, and we can. This would be interesting to see how Nora reacts. So we have an article here that was shared by Dan earlier from arthropodecology.com. And basically, this article says that you are pretty much always within 3 feet of a spider.
3 meters.
3 meters.
So
yeah.
9 feet, relatively.
Well, this says 3 feet. The article says 3 feet, and wolf spider densities in Arctic tundra habitats are just under 0.5 per square meter. It's actually pretty true that you're. So Morgan Jackson commented on the post, asked about whether it was true that you're always within 6 feet of a spider. This is one of the common myths, along with do spiders bite. Yeah, so this doesn't seem to be fairly consistent on how far away from spiders you are at any given time, but needless to say, you are actually quite close to a spider almost always.
As a general rule of thumb, you're always going to have one pretty damn close.
Yeah, under the floorboards, above, between the roofing or ceiling, especially when you're in natural environments, right? Think about when you go hiking or camping. There's always going to be one nearby.
Actually, if you're terrified of ticks, deer ticks actually drop down on you from the trees. So that's something to be aware of, especially in pine forests. And I went hiking, I want to say 2 years ago with a friend, and we passed through a stretch and then decided to stop and get a drink. When I pulled my backpack off, I probably had 30 ticks on my backpack.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's impressive.
I'm less concerned about the ticks when I go hiking because I carry a tick key. I'm more concerned when I hike through pine forest about porcupines because they like to jump out of trees sometimes too. Apparently, they're drunk little bastards.
I've never heard that.
Neither have I.
I was camping one time and it was getting pretty late, and I heard this thunk out behind the lean-to, and turns out a porcupine had fallen out of a tree.
I mean, I've seen them.
I don't know that I don't know that he jumps. Oh yeah, they go up pretty high in trees.
Was not aware that they were tree climbers.
Yeah. Heard one go thunk out of a tree because I looked, and there goes a porcupine running off, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? I
Apparently-
learned something about porcupines that day. They go up trees.
and apparently they come down trees.
Yeah, I'm wondering if perhaps it was if it lost its balance or its footing or something up there.
Yeah,
Not
it
sure
almost
that
had
that
to
was necessarily intentional.
missed a branch or got in a fight with a squirrel or something.
I mean, something.
Yikes. Right?
So yeah, I wonder if there are any other fears, kind of like we were talking about with the spiders. If there's any ideas where they could execute on those a little bit more.
Mannequins.
Fear of the unknown. That one's harder, but it's definitely
well,
something.
you know, I'm thinking with the fear of the unknown, right? You know, these darker kind of what's around the next corner sort of fears, right?
And I feel like
If you-
sound can really play on that a lot.
Oh, absolutely, right. You know, one of my big things when I go to a hunt is I try to predict what's going to be around the corner. I try to peek around the corner before, whatever's around that corner can see me, right?
Cheater.
I kind of want to be prepared a little bit, but I think I have been to a few hunts that they make it damn near impossible. You basically have to put your whole body out in that around the corner to see what's going to happen. Or they have the the flappies that hang down in the doorways, and you're not going to see anything before going through them.
They're gonna see you before you go through because they'll see the flaps moving before your body goes through. So.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They're going to see that movement, and they're going to be like, "Here he comes."
Or they're going to be listening.
Yeah, fear of the dark. That's harder to do, especially with adults. I think most adults are not necessarily terribly afraid of the dark. That's more of a kid thing.
That's
what's
one
under
of
the
those
bed,
things, though, when we're in a haunt, if it gets total black, I switch Tyler places because I always go up front 'cause I'm short. And if it gets pitch black, I switch him.
That's one of the little known fears that Nora's got. Is afraid of the dark. We've got so many night lights in this house.
Seriously, yeah.
She
Oh
does
man, I
not
can't
tolerate
sleep
darkness
unless
very
it is
well.
pitch black. I have such a hard time getting to sleep unless it's pitch black in my room.
We've got a
can't
TV
do
on, about 3 or 4 night lights, a pretty bright
I
alarm
can't do
clock. We can't even, like, if she's walking outside, needs to do something outside, there's got to be about 4 driveway security lights on. No, not dark. She won't do it.
Yeah, no, I need pitch black to sleep. It's tough, especially backpacking. Especially on a clear night and the moon's out and the stars and everything, and it's actually quite bright. And I got a hard time getting to sleep. I think what are the other ones that we see a lot of? Claustrophobia I think could be capitalized on
We
some
mentioned
more.
the clowns, obviously. We see a lot of clowns everywhere.
Clowns, I think could probably be drawn back a little bit, right? It's becoming so cliche at this point.
Well, I think that's more because we don't see them used as well as they should.
I mean,
a lot of
you could really lean into clowns more, but you need to make caricatures of them. Almost go like Killer Clowns from Outer Space style rather than it all the time.
Great movie. Great movie. Yeah, clowns I think could probably use a reimagining or at least a more focused view on their role in a haunt, right? If you're walking through this industrial warehouse, does the clown really fit? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe not,
Yeah.
If you're walking through the old Victorian mansion, does the brightly colored clown fit? No, probably not, but you could totally go with the super creepy, like, 1800s clown, the black and white the ruffle collar and all that. Totally go with one of those super creepy and fit in with the scenery pretty well there.
And they really are characters that can kind of say about anything as long as it's not only funny and it's more like weird and just, remember clowns are generally hired as entertainers. So,
right.
What would they be doing in these scenes as some sort of entertainment, but more to entertain haunt guests? So, I mean, I think that a lot of times they go more for they're funny, but
Well, it's like
they go more for the John Wayne Gacy sort of clown rather than Bozo the clown.
Well, it's like with the spiders, they rely on just the costuming and the makeup to sell the illusion of a clown, and they think people are just scared of clowns for the sake of being scared of clowns. But
and some are, but
right, yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of people that are scared of clowns, but there's also a lot of people that aren't. I'm one of those included, and it's I'm probably among the group of people that think clowns are getting kind of old because there's only so many ways you can skin that cat without losing some originality anymore. But if you get some great big burly guy that's intimidating as crap, and he's gonna give me a scare, it doesn't matter what he's wearing, then yeah, you can still get clowns that are scary.
And I will say clowns are generally the ones that learn. Some of them are the characters that are more likely, I guess, around here to learn every single nook and cranny in their scene and all doors. So they're usually more likely to come back and jump scare you more often. It's like they're more motivated to do that.
They're tricksters, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I personally think clowns could probably be dialed back a little, especially having played a clown on an occasion or two. It's so much fun to play a clown. I will say that, but
and Tiffany has too, haven't you, Tiffany?
Oh yeah. So I've been a clown for I think it's been about 5 years straight. With very variants and anything else, but a lot of the reasons behind that is I have this weird thing out of nervousness or I don't really know, but I laugh inappropriately at everything. So if I'm screaming at you or if I'm into a character, I'll just laugh, and it's actually this really kind of disconcerting thing that's actually day to day. So that's cool. But when I was auditioning for a role in The Haunt, they're like clown, and I was like, cool. It also didn't really help. My hair has been blue for the last 12 years or so. So again, bright colored hair, laughs at everything, and I have an unnatural ability to keep up energy even though I'm exhausted and dead. But yeah, all of that, even if I was casting for a clown, I would have agreed and be like, yep, that actor definitely needs to be a clown. I don't know, clowns, I don't really have that phobia. So my mom was actually an amateur clown, a kid's clown for, what do you call it? Kids' birthday parties and stuff. And so that's actually how I learned how to do balloon animals and face painting and unicycling and stilt walking and all that kind of fun things. And I kind of use some of that with haunting. But I found the most that you could do as a clown character is actually not act like a clown. So normally I have kind of a toy character, or I had a bear that had a car horn in it. I had a lunch pail, had a car horn in it. I would carry a shock rod. A lot of things that kind of made sounds or made loud noises. Not the expected thing of the big oversized mallets or hammers and stuff. That does have a place, but I only ever had props like that if I was stilt walking and I needed a staff to balance myself because I didn't have a spotter. But yeah, I don't know. I just know that a lot of people react very violently to clowns. And then, kind of like what I mentioned before, if they're not scared of like my clown shtick of me being a clown, I find something. Like I'm constantly doing something. So either I get too close to them, or there was like one, if I like started whispering to people in their ear, like they were set off. Like they were not having it. So I would find different things like that by like interacting with characters, and I was like a line actor, so I got a lot of flexibility to do that.
Very interesting. Well, we have surpassed our 1 hour mark. Did you have something else you were going to say there, Brian?
I was just gonna point out that one of the things that you do see in haunts is this medical horror, I guess, genre, which we touched on
medical stuff,
lightly.
yeah.
You see it, but
blood and
it's
gore.
I feel like it could just be capitalized on so much more. So many people are afraid of this, and this year might be in bad taste. But I think going forward, I would love to see more like old-fashioned medical horror type, abandoned hospital sort of sets and scenes and themes and all that. KO's Escape is old hospital themed, so that it definitely works. And I think if done right, it could be tasteful, and it's not discouraging to the current climate that we're in socially right now.
Sure thing. We've got a couple haunts near us that are using those quite a bit. American Horrorplex is basically entirely themed around it. It's the inside and the outside of the hospital. And then we've got Waverly Hills Sanatorium not too far from us, and they take place in a, obviously an old tuberculosis hospital. But I will admit that they've actually gone away from their asylum theme over the past few years, and every time we go back, we're like, man, why don't they take advantage of this atmosphere that they've got here? They've already got all the rooms and equipment and everything to be perfect asylum themed, and they just haven't captured it yet.
There has been like this push, particularly with like medical horror, because I know like out here, we had an asylum, and then the asylum ended up getting like a lot of lawsuits because it was stigmatizing disabilities or basically like mental illnesses and stuff. And so there's like a lot of that kind of random push that changes like your themes, particularly like regionally, which it's fun when you're working on that side of planning a haunt and trying to come up with a theme and everything like that. Like there's definitely like things that you could think of like, well, I mean, this makes sense or this would work. But then there's also like the larger thing is like, is this actually going to get us sued? And are we going to piss off like the wrong people by doing this? And so it's kind of like a weird balance.
Who cares who you piss off?
Yeah.
Who cares who you piss off? That's the whole idea, is to make people feel uncomfortable.
I mean,
yeah. I don't know.
You're kind of at mercy again, like with your community that you work in.
Screw them, piss them off.
I mean, at the same time, you've got the Haunted Hoochie though. They got the big stink about the swastika night, which was something that they had done for a long time. And every time they get a big stink about something, though, I'd say their attendance stays the same or grows.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of been their whole thing is like, screw you, we're going to do what we want. They're intentionally trying to be controversial, so I don't know. I mean, it works for them.
That it does. Well, we have reached the end of our show for this week. I think we could keep on going on with this for hours and hours if we wanted to, and but we do have to draw the line somewhere, unfortunately. If you are listening to this, please leave us a email at thescarefactor@gmail.com and let us know if you enjoyed this conversation. We would love to hear from you. Shoot us a message on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We're on TikTok, all of the socials at The Scare Factor. And yeah, that's going to bring the show to an end this week. Anybody have any final thoughts about fears and what we've got coming up for future episodes?
I think the biggest fear of people on YouTube is they're afraid to ring the bell. So please, folks, conquer that fear and ring that bell.
Absolutely.
Like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell. Get those notifications on, because then you know when we go live. You'll know when we post new videos. You'll know all sorts of cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Next week, I TBD again, I guess. I don't know. Let's keep them on their toes.
You're gonna finish this without quoting Herbert?
Sorry, I don't know. Maybe I missed the.
Please tell me you guys have all read
missed the
Dune.
reference. Yeah, no. That's
okay.
That's a negative.
Why don't you take us out, Dan? Take us out.
Here you go. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. You must not fear.
All right. Well, there you go. Must
Perfect
not fear.
ending to a
Must
perfect
not fear. Ring
episode.
the bell, folks. We'll see you next week.
All right. We'll
See ya.